Um, Dennis is the Chief Culture Officer at Investors Bank. Um, Dennis, prior to being at Investors Bank, was co-founder of FTC Methods, Inc., a professional development and consulting firm. The bank hired Dennis to consult with them, and Kevin enjoyed what Dennis did so much, he decided to buy the company, as rumor has it, so that he could have Kevin work for him, or have Dennis work for him full time and help implement change within the bank on a regular basis. With his experience as a successful entrepreneur and business leader, Dennis is a highly sought after public speaker, motivator, and educator. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to take us through this afternoon's presentation.
Thank you, Len. Thank you, Ben, and welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. This is great. So thank you all for coming out and spending a little over an hour with us. And I do have some great prizes, but they're not prizes as much as it is, I call them great gifts. So I'm going to give out some books at the end, and the books I give out have really affected my life, and the feedback I get from the books that I've selected and I give out, I get great feedback. So I'm going to give you books that are very relevant to the world we live in today and the businesses that we're running, and even it applies to family life and it applies to our personal life. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to get started. So thank you all for being here. If everyone can see my screen. All right. So the title is Cultivating Your Personal Brilliance and Advantage. And that's like a big title. It's like, really? We're going to do that in an hour? And I'm like, well, no, you're going to do that. What I'm going to do is hopefully whet your appetite and maybe create a curiosity within you that says, maybe I'm going to take the next step and inquire. Maybe I'm going to go a little bit deeper and see what this is all about. So that's my goal today. It's just to get you interested in what brilliance and how that gives you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. But not only in the marketplace, it has a major impact on our personal lives and the people that we love, right? Because brilliance is who we are, and who we are, we share with other people. So I'm going to go deep into this a little bit. I'll give you a little science around it. I like videos. So I'm going to share a couple of videos, and every time I share a video, I'm going to open it up to the audience and see, hey, Jessica, give me a comment. I might go to Karen and say, Karen, do you have a comment on the video? And we'll make it a little interactive so that we could share each other's thoughts. All right. So let's get started. Chief Culture Officer. I remember when I got the job, I was told, I was at the time I didn't know, but I was told that I was the first Chief Culture Officer appointed in banking in the US. And I didn't know that. And I was like, well, I don't know. Am I supposed to care about that? And I'm like, yeah, but you are. Okay, that's good. And it's interesting. 3 years later, there was 40 chief culture officers and bankers across the country. It kind of opened up a whole new thought with, does culture really matter? And so I guess up till this point, it mattered, but not enough to dedicate a whole department to that. But if you go to other industries, you'll see like Microsoft has a people officer, and Google has all that stuff. But in banking, it was a slow adoption. But now it's pretty commonplace. A lot of banks have human resource taking care of this, and culture is becoming a big deal today because culture is behind everything. So we always thought maybe sometimes it's product, or maybe it's our systems. If we have a good system, we'll have more sales. That's not true. That's not true. They said, well, if we have a better product, we could have more sales. Well, that may be somewhat true. But the bottom line is you and me. We make it work or we don't make it work. So how do we create our advantage in our business? We're all in different businesses. Maybe some of us are in the same business, but no matter what you sell, we have to deal with people. And our advantage is not our product. Our advantage is not the company we work for, although that may impact the decision later. But our advantage is who we are and how we present ourselves. And that's not easy to do. So I'm going to share some thoughts with you that maybe you could take away and say, maybe I could tune me up a little bit. Maybe I could sharpen my edges a little bit so that I could do the same amount of work, but get better results. Or maybe I just have to do something else and change. There's a thought out there. If you're taking notes, if you take a note, here's something that you may want to consider writing down. It's not about doing different things. It's about doing things differently. And we're in an economy today where we have to do things differently. The way we interact with the consumer, the way we interact with each other is different today, especially now with everything that's going on in the world. People are distracted, and our attention span is a little bit shorter than it normally is. So I want to share some thoughts, and we'll see where it goes. All right. So I want to start off with a kind of a thought. The universe exposes itself based on our method of thinking. Now, we could spend an hour just talking about the neuroscience of this, but in a nutshell, what we think about, we bring about. It's that simple. And we say, well, how could that be? Think about it. If you're looking for trouble, what are you going to find? You're going to find trouble. If you're looking to make peace, well, you're more than likely to have peace. If you have a mindset of winning, then you just dramatically increase the probability of winning. What we think about affects our lives. And so this is somewhat true because we see the world based on the way we think. And I'm going to share a quick video with you about this, but everyone sees the world a little bit different. That's why it's so hard to convince someone of your point of view. That's why it's hard to get people to see what you see, because everyone sees the same thing just a little bit different. And it could be from our background. It could be from the beliefs that we decided to believe along the way. And we see things differently. And so if and that really affects our outcome. So if you have an outcome that you love and you want it to just keep it going, then we still have to change to keep it going. But if we have an outcome that way, we have a relationship we want to fix, or we have a company that needs to be tuned up, or our career needs to be reinvented, then the mind has to change a little bit. And that's kind of the thought of our advantage. Our advantage is not who we are as much as how we think. It's all based on mindset. There's a great book out there, if you're taking notes, it's called Mindset. And we're going to talk about that later. It's the first book of its kind that dedicated 400 pages on just how powerful and how influential our mindset is. And our mindset really boils down to what we believe. You know, what we think about and what we think about over and over again really affects our world. And so I love this quote. So as we go through this process, just think about, we see the world based on how we think. And if I change the way I think, even if it's a little bit, I see the world slightly different. So I'm going to share a video, and then we'll get a couple of comments on this.
I am part of a lost generation,
You could all hear it.
and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money will make me happy. So in 30 years, I'll tell my children they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family. I'll tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together, but this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time. I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life. So in 30 years, I'll tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world, and I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
Is that cool? That cool? Like it got you going one emotion, you get like in a negative emotion, and then all of a sudden it reverses and it changes your emotion, right? So I'm going to open up. Let's get a couple of comments. Robin, you could start us off. You have a comment you want to share? How you doing, Robin?
I'm good. I knew you were going to call on me.
You know.
Yeah, I knew. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good.
Good
I'm
to
glad
see
to
you.
hear that. I thought this was cool. I really did. You saw me nodding my head probably. So yeah, because I was thinking, I know Dennis, and he's not going to give us something negative. So there we go.
Right. But okay, let's get some more. Thanks, Robin. Anybody else have a thought that you want to share? Like what are we looking at? What do we look, Jessica? What are we looking at? Go
I'll
ahead.
just
Okay, go ahead.
mention one thing. Yeah, as the first one was nearing the end, going down, I was getting more and more depressed as I was listening to it. And as soon as it turned around, it just picked me right up. Yeah, I'm just emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're all just emotional.
Yeah.
Some more than others, but we could be, listen, I'm a rational person, but no, but you're still emotional because we're emotional beings, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's true. Jessica, you have a thought?
When you talked about the world looks differently to everyone depending upon their viewpoint and the way they think, while what you illustrated a negative positive mindset. But what I thought you were going to go with that was about the way people view tasks, because so often at work, that can be the conflict where I'm more of a design thinker, I'm creative, I write things like very big. And some of the important members of teams that I work with are more analytical, they're more into numbers. And so my style of thinking and brainstorming can be overwhelming and intimidating to them, and vice versa. Sometimes I get frustrated by the way they think. So while this is a positive negative, the glass is half empty or half full example that you have given, when you said the world depends upon how we think, that's where I thought you were going with this.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going there later, what you just said. So I'm gonna actually give you a tool at the end that will help you better understand people that don't think just like you. Right. So there's a great tool out there that we use in our organization that really helped us a lot in how to better communicate in a more productive way with people that have a very different belief and viewpoint, and they're just as stubborn as you are. Right? Listen, you got to see it my way. No. You have to see it my way. See, I'm going to win that. So there's a good tool I'm going to give you that you could decide to do. And I would ask that you do it first at home. do it first at home. Take it, and then maybe have the person that's closest to you, whether it's a partner or a spouse, take it, even if it's your children. And then there's a great feature to this website where you can put all the personalities together, and it will tell you how to interact with each other to get the most out of relationships. And then we use it at work with our management. That will have people take it, and then they better understand each other. So that's good. Anyone else have a comment on that video?
Yes,
So,
Dennis.
yes,
Nancy
go ahead,
Barone.
Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hey, I was thinking the whole time, life is always just so much easier when you remain positive as opposed to go to the negative. That's all I was thinking, because I was feeling really bad as we were going down. And I'm like, but I tend to be always be positive and see, okay, there is another way to do things, or there's a good way to do things, a positive way that makes everybody happy. It's just always easier to go that way than it is to go to the negative, because you get miserable when you go to the negative.
Yeah. But some people have spent so much time there that you find that it doesn't bother you as much. It becomes I'm comfortable being this way. That's the way I know. And it's not threatening to me anymore to feel this way. And I don't even know if I feel any way anymore, right? But here's the interesting thing. Here's one of the things I wanted to show you, that in the beginning, you felt negative because I was giving you words that you interpreted as negative. I influenced you, and you felt the video. John said it. I felt like a little like, come on, you're killing me, right? But then immediately the energy shifted because your thoughts shifted. And this wasn't even real. It's not even reality. It's a video. But the point is that what we expose ourselves to affects our energy immediately. And how quick can we change it? By exposing yourself to something different. And all of a sudden the energy changed. And that's pretty remarkable. It didn't take long for me to get 30, 40 people to feel in a funk. And then within a nanosecond, you're like, oh, wow, I'm kind of feeling a little bit better. And we did that as a group. Go ahead, Patricia.
I was just going to say, I wanted to mention about the lost generation. That term, the lost generation, is such like a catch term, because every generation says the generation after is the lost generation. So that term kind of set me right, you know, in the beginning, it set me up for like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Am I the lost generation? No, I'm not. So I was kind of getting defensive with all the negative. And then when it reversed, like you said, I was happy and felt better instantly.
Of course, the second part was hopeful. You see, the second part talked about hope in the future. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because it's very important in your business and in your personal life. What level of hope do you have in the future? The first part was no hope. We're going down. It's not coming back. Well, that doesn't feel good. But the second part was, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Things could change. We could be happy. We could solve problems. Oh, good. I want to hear that, right? Because now I have hope in the future. It's interesting. If you're taking notes, hope in the future is power in the present. Hope in your business is the essential driver of your business. How do you see the future in your business? How do you see your client base? It starts with that because that's the energy behind all the strategy. If someone's doing something, not anticipating it working, or they don't have any hope, or it's lackluster, or it's like, Mom, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, I got a plan B. That's not going to be as powerful as if you say, no, I'm putting my hope in this. I have a plan, I'm sticking with the plan, and I'm going to make it work. Well, they call that passion, but it's all based on hope. Passion is being willing to go through the pain to get what you're looking for. That's passion. But hope is deciding the future. It's visioning. How hopeful are you in your business, in your personal life, with your children, with your grandchildren? Where does hope fit? All right, I'll take one more. Tony, you have a thought?
Yes, I do. Patricia kind of touched on it when I was first watching it, you know, the first synopsis. I wasn't feeling more depressed. I was feeling angry that there are actually people who feel this way. And there's such downers that people feed into that. So then, you know, once we turned it around, I found myself smiling because then that's more of how I see the world. And I was happy to see that others feel the same way I do.
Yeah. Could you imagine if I just showed the first half and said, okay, guys, now we're going to talk about, and you'll be like, I don't want to talk about anything. Why did you start it off like that? Right. So, but we changed it. And so we're going to talk about that because that's a basic principle. We are influenced all the time and we don't even know it. You had no idea I was going to give that to you, but you sat and you watched it and your emotions were affected. And if we stopped halfway through it and I said, okay, now go make some phone calls and call some prospects, you wouldn't have the right energy to do that. You'd be in the wrong energy. You'd be like, I can't call right now. I feel lousy, right? So I want to tie that into business. What we think about affects our energy, and our energy is what we're selling. And if you have low energy, you don't sell as much as when you're really passionate and you're energized about what you do. And you almost have to rehire yourself. If you've been doing this business for 20 years, you got to rehire yourself and say, would I hire me to work for me? I lost my fire. And so my whole purpose doing these presentations is to get you fired up again. Reinvent yourself. Great opportunity out there because a lot of people think the first version. A lot of people think it's going to be hard to be successful. It's not true. So let's continue to go. So our thoughts impact, so the impact of our thoughts. So I want, if you could take notes, that would be great. This is something that you want to capture because I'm going to tie into this a couple of times. So we think, and science says that if we're up 16, 17 hours a day, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. We have about a thought a second. And you could research, you could go online, just don't do it right now. Don't Google it right now. But later on, you Google some of this stuff. And there's anywhere from 55,000 thoughts a day to 70,000 thoughts a day. But we always have spontaneous thoughts. A lot of thoughts show up uninvited. Right now, some of you aren't even hearing what I'm saying. You're thinking about something. You're not even here, right? So stuff comes in your mind that's uninvited. I say it's a dog-eat-dog world, and someone says, oh, wow, I got to get dog food. I'm glad he said that. I got to get dog food, right? So that's the way our minds work. It's okay. You can't stop that. But we do think, and we think about 60,000 thoughts a day. Here's the interesting thing. Neuroscience, and they could do this by just doing brainwave caps. They do all this stuff with little stuff on the head, and they can measure what part of the brain you're operating from with synapse connections. They say about 80% of our thoughts are non-positive. 80% of our thoughts are non-positive. They're thoughts of fear, they're thoughts of anxiety, they're thoughts of stress, they're thoughts of limitations, they're thoughts of I can't do this, they're thoughts of I don't want to fail. Everything but being positive. Now that's pretty interesting because that applies to all our employees, all your customers. 80% of our thoughts are non-positive. And that's incredible. Now the kicker to this is as we think, we feel, just like I just demonstrated with that video. I was giving you words to think about, and you were feeling it as it was being presented to you. So the way we think, it affects the way we feel, and we call those emotions. So if you write down the word emotions, if you hyphenate the word, if you put a line between the E and the M, emotion, the word emotion is pretty interesting. If you hyphenate it, it really means energy in motion. So think about when you're feeling really optimistic. You feel alive, you're pumped up, you have this energy about you that when you're doing something, you're doing it at a different level. It's not like just hello, it's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, wow, you look like you're in a good mood. I'm feeling great. See, everything we do changes when we elevate our energy. How do we elevate our energy? We elevate the way we think. The way we think affects our energy. And you can walk in a room and you look at somebody and you know there's something going on just based on the expression and the way they carry themselves. And the first thing you say is, what's the matter? Is there something wrong? Why? Do you think there's something wrong? Yeah, I'm looking at you. You look like there's something wrong. I mean, you're just the way you're slumped. So this is really important because, you know, there's a thought out there. It's about 6,000 years old. It says, guard your heart. It's a proverb that's in many different religions, but they'll say, guard your heart. And what it really means is your inner self. Guard that. Because if someone screws that up for you, you're the victim of it. It's going to mess you up. Guard the way you think. Make sure you don't get tangled up in stinking thinking. And it's so easy today to get tangled up. And some people may tangle us up without even knowing it. Right? So we have emotions. Now, what do emotions really matter? Well, emotions drive behaviors. How we feel will drive how we do things. And at the level of passion and energy behind it. In fact, if you're not in the mood to do something, you're probably not going to do it. Right? So if we're looking to get passionate about our business and about our families and about our lives, it all starts with re-looking at it. There's a great book out there. If you're writing books down, I'm going to give this book away later, called Think Again by Adam Grant. It is a really, 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 really good book. And I'll give away a couple of copies at the end. This book is dedicated on how to rethink about your life, how to rethink about your business, how to rethink about your life, how to challenge your beliefs. This is what I believe. Well, guess what? You might not be right. He spends one chapter on the joy of being wrong. Now, isn't that interesting? He calls it joyful to find out, hey, Dennis, you're wrong. Now, my ego would say, no, I'm right, and defend it. But he's saying, no, open up. Because if you could realize you're wrong and correct it, your life changes. Right? So these are great things to learn, great lessons. Because you say, well, okay, well, let me go to Ben and say, Ben, what do you think I'm doing wrong? Oh, you know, I'm glad you asked. I was always afraid to tell you because, you know, you're very stubborn. But let me tell you 2 or 3 things. Well, thank you. I'm going to consider that because if I could fix one of those 3 things, I could get more out of what I'm doing. Right. So that's the power of reading. All this new research is coming out. It's fabulous. It's really good. Let me keep on going. I'm going to run out of time. I'll be here till 3 o'clock. Now, you know, I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. I can talk off screen about this. I am so passionate because I see it working every day for people. There's no BS here. You do this stuff, you're going to see changes in your business, changes in your life. And then the outcome, we see activity drives outcome. We know that as business owners, you know, activity drives outcome, energy drives activity, and the way we think drives the energy. It's all connected. So if I was a company and I was looking to increase my outcome, where do I need to start, Joe? So you own a company and you want to increase outcome. You want to get more results. Where would you start? Joe Konopka, I'm sorry, pronounce the name.
Oh, no, you were good, Dennis. Thanks. I just started the Adam Grant Read, and what I realized is that, and I work for Ocean County College, so sometimes I'm in my head as an academic too much.
Yeah.
What I realize is where I would start is how people are thinking, right? It's because it's those 60,000 thoughts, 80% of those thoughts are negative. So how could I replace some of those thoughts with positive? And I'm not just talking about rah. It's more of, you know, where, and I struggle with it all day, right? In any position that we're in, we're trying to get to a place to focus on the things that are going to bring the company along in its way, rather than focus on the things that are just going to get it. Think of how many times you get stuck on a daily basis around a person who you say, and someone said it before, and they're just thinking negatively. And then you're thinking, well, why are they thinking so negatively? What can I do about that? Maybe there's nothing you could do about that, but don't spend your time there, and try to get the people who work for you away from that place.
Yeah.
Much easier said than done. Then.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna show a video that I'm so glad you brought that up. Listen, we're gonna change the people that are closest to change. We start with the people that we could create advocates, right? So we draw a circle, and who's closest to the circle? That's who we want to draw in. And the people that are outliers are already out there. You put energy out there, you know who you're really making mad? The people in between you and the people you're trying to change. They're going, what about us, man? We're on the team. Why are you ignoring us? You're spending all this time with, we got to be careful. You know, we don't want to put 80% of our energy into 20% of the organization. You got to be careful.
They're never going to change. Dennis. That 20% may never change for us.
They may never, but they could still be useful in a company. Right. They could still, there's a place for those people. But I tell you, the whole goal to this is to create influences. I may not influence someone else, but if I influence maybe Kevin, he's the one that's influencing someone else, because there's a respect for Kevin more than it was for me. So that's the whole thing about this, is it's meant to be started. And I'll show you a video that really illustrates this pretty well. So our outcome. And so the question is, we have to give what we think about a second thought. You know, look at your business and say, what do I think about my business? What do I think is stopping me? What do I think is holding me back? And then rethink that. Is that really true? Is that really holding me back? Or is there something else that's holding me back? Now, in the bank, we were told that we don't have a quick system to open up accounts. And that's what was holding people back from making sales. You see, it just takes a half hour to open an account. Nobody wants to do that. I said, well, how many people actually left the bank because they came to open up an account, because it was a half hour they left? Because it took a half hour, they left. They said, well, I don't remember anybody walking out. So you're telling me if we gave you a system that opened up the account in half the time, you would sell more? Yes. Why? Well, I don't know why. Well, why are you saying that? Because my boss said that. My boss said if we had a better system, we'd sell more. No, you know how you're going to sell more? Get up off the chair, go outside and knock on doors. That's how you build your business. You don't build your business with a system. You build your business meeting people. And whether your system is slow or it's fast, that's after someone decided to do business. Well, you could always figure that out, but your job is to meet, our job is to meet people. Our secondary job is to help them pay taxes. But if you really look at your business, if you want to grow it, it's meeting people any way you can. And so that's what I teach our people. Just get out and knock on doors. I don't know what to say. You'll figure it out when they open the door. You'll know, but you'll figure out what to say. Right. So that's the whole thing, is how much time do we spend on the way we think? So let's go to the next one now. Workplace paradigms. This is interesting. This comes right out of a book, Happiness Advantage. Going to give some copies away later of this book. I love this book. Anyone read this book? Anyone have a chance to read this book? Happiness Advantage is a dynamite book. Joe, if you like Think Again, you're going to love Happiness Advantage. It's a great book. But it talks about the case study of happiness in the workplace. but not like giddy happy. We're talking about this genuine appreciation. It's more of a principle-based happy. Like I feel good being here, and I feel good with who I work with and who I work for. So it's that kind of, it's a different type of happiness. It's not like goofy happy. It's a deeper level of happiness. And here's what that book talked about. Interesting. How many percent, the percentage of people that actually come to work optimistic, hopeful, happy to be there, really positive, way to go. Let's get some guesses here. So Patricia, Nolan, what percentage of people do you think come to work really ready to win?
I'm gonna guess 40%.
Oh, there you go. See, you're very optimistic. That's wonderful. Karen, what do you think, Karen? It's a little bit lower than 40.
I'm
I'm gonna say 20.
pretty,
Oh.
oh, which
Good.
Karen?
No, we'll take both. So Karen A, what is yours?
I would say about 15%. And I'm a
15.
pretty optimistic person.
All right, Karen S, what do you think? What is your
20.
number?
25%.
Okay, well, here's the number, 2%. Isn't that amazing? 98% of people, now the 98% of people aren't coming to work negative. Don't confuse that. They're coming to work with something on their mind. Something that's interfering with their ability to be happy, hopeful, and optimistic. There's something interfering with that. And most people don't know how to negotiate that. They don't know how to let go that my son in high school is being bullied. I can't not think about that during the day. Or my mom is sick, or my dad's depressed, or my brother-in-law lost his job and I have 3 kids, and I'm worried about that. See, we're all worried about stuff. And so it's not about not having things to worry about, but as we strengthen our mindset, we're able to better cope and better deal with the things that we're stressed out about, and then be helpful to people that we love and help them negotiate this. But everybody has issues. Everybody has things to worry about. But without learning how to navigate that could actually affect their results, their relationships at work. And we all know that. We all know people that have gone through stuff and they couldn't handle it right. And they just, so there's a way. In fact, there's a class at the University of Pennsylvania by Dr. Seligman. He started this probably 25 years ago. He coined the word positive psychology. It's called learned optimism. That's the name of the class, learned optimism. Scientifically, there is a way to teach a human being how to be more optimistic in life. And it's training that side of the brain to look at things glass half full. So it's a training. And so we could do that by reading, you could do that by researching and finding, but there you can teach the brain to default to a more positive place than a more negative. So this is an interesting thing. So my goal at the bank as a cultural officer is I want to influence those numbers. I'm not switching them. But if I could get to 4 or 5%, that's a big change. And so I'm not looking to change everybody. I'm looking to change the changeable and hoping that the changeable influences the unchangeable to be changeable. I can't influence everybody, but if I could get people to help me, and that's how you may look at your business. We can't do everyone at one time. So how we think. There's 4 things that actually, I think I have 4 things, but 3 things here that my job at the bank is. But this is your job in your life. It's a job that we have for our lives and for our businesses too. My job is to build hope, right? And we could see that illustration earlier. When you saw the more optimistic part of that essay, actually that essay was written by a 13-year-old. And they won an international award for essays. So that's a young person wrote that. That's how they saw the world, 2 different ways, so it was pretty interesting. Anyway, so there's hope. And we said it earlier, hope in the future is pound the present. If I have hopeful thoughts about our company, have hopeful thoughts about the family, hopeful thoughts about my life, it just changes everything. It changes today. It actually gives us optimism. So hope and optimism go together. As we're hopeful for the future, we could have higher levels of optimism today. Right. And so that ties into happiness. Now, again, I'm not talking about giddy happiness. I'm talking about a genuine feeling that I'm happy to be here and happy to do what I'm doing. And it all starts with hope, which creates optimism, which feeds happiness. And so we look at that and we say, okay, I want to give you an illustration. And this is both rational and emotional. Happiness and optimism and all that, it's our critical thinking, our rational thinking, and our emotions. They all tie together, right? So we think and then we feel. So there's an illustration called the elephant and the rider. Is anyone familiar with this? They teach this in psychology, and they use this metaphor all the time. So I'm gonna give you how this works. The rider is our rational thinking. That's the side of our brain that says, Dennis, you're going to lose 20 pounds in 2022. Okay, I'm going to do that. And that's the rational brain. And I can write down all the reasons why I'm going to do that. And I may even yell to myself and say, Dennis, you're going to do it, right? You're going to do it. You got to practice what you preach. So you're going to lose 20 pounds in 2022. Okay. So now what happens is it's February 1st and I've been doing pretty good. And all of a sudden chocolate cake shows up. And I like chocolate cake. And I look at the chocolate cake and I say, well, I'm not going to eat the chocolate cake because I made a decision. I'm going to be passionate about this. I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not eating the chocolate cake. Now, here's where the elephant comes in. The elephant is our emotions. And if you look at this picture, who has the power? The elephant. And the elephant starts to play with us and says, Dennis, come on, it's one piece of cake. That's not going to kill your diet. You know, and I'm like, no, but man, I don't want to do it. Come on, eat the cake. I'm not going to do it. Dennis, you tried this the last 5 years in a row. Just eat the stupid piece of cake so we could get this over with. And then I decided I'm not going to do it. Now, here's where emotions go. You know, Dennis, your bank is being acquired by Citizens Bank. You're under a lot of pressure. You know how cake makes you feel, right? Makes you feel okay. I mean, you're okay if you eat the cake. Just eat the cake. It'll be okay. We're not going to tell anybody. You know what I do? I eat the cake. And then I lose. And I gave in. And now I don't want to think about it anymore. And I regret it. So think about this. Are our emotions aligned with what we're thinking? Or is there a conflict? Do we say we want to do something, but we don't know how to get aligned emotionally because that's where the power is. We got to get emotional about what we need to do. And so the whole goal is to get this thing cranking. And that's what we talk about passion. That's what we talk about energy. That these are people that just emotionally and intellectually and rationally are aligned. I know what I need to do and I'm excited about it. And I found a way to stay passionate and I feed it every day. And so I listen to rock and roll music that makes me feel good. I listen to podcasts. I do what I need to do on a daily basis to feed my optimism so I could get what I need to get done that I've been putting off for the last 20 years. And that's how it's connected. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. This is a process, but that's the goal. In my organization, I'm trying to get people to think and feel aligned. I want them to do new things and try new things and understand if you fail, it's not a big deal. But you can't learn until you get out there. We don't learn anything about business until we're out in the business world. You don't learn it reading a book, right? We know that. We're in business. So I'm going to share a video with you about influence, about how you feel. And if you're pumped up, how people will join you if working with you is fun. If working with you is not fun, you're not going to have many people wanting to join you. So it's like, why would I want to work with Dennis? He's no fun. So I'm going to talk about optimism and hopeful outlook and enthusiasm attracts people to you, even clients.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
I mean, really, wasn't that great? And that was real time. Someone videoed that real time with their phone. I mean, it's amazing how influential we are. Let's go around. Let's get 1 or 2 comments on this. Who wants to share a comment on this video?
I'll share one.
Okay, that's good.
So I think it's important to notice that without that trust in the beginning, the change cannot occur. If that first early adopter is vilified, if people had really done something outward to let that person know that they did not like their adoption of that, there would have been no other followers. So that's why toxic cultures have to be addressed, because without meaningful culture change, you can't expect meaningful business change.
Right, exactly. So you bring up a good point. How do we get to create 1 or 2 followers? And I have some stuff at the end that I could share with you that's worked for me in many organizations across the country. It's not as complicated. It just takes time, because we gotta win people over. They have to come over and adopt a new way or a combined way of thinking. I always look at 1 + 1 = 3, right? It's if I could think the way I think and you could think the way you think, and we agree to put our thoughts together to create a third thought, that's powerful. What we're too busy trying to do is I'm trying to get someone to think like me. I don't want you to think like me. I want us to contribute to a separate thought. Maybe you use the color I think we should use, and we use the system you use, and all of a sudden we got something different. It's not about pushing our beliefs on people. It's about figuring out how do we get the most out of 2 points of view and creating a third point of view. And so there's a lot of stuff around that. I'll give you some things later, but obviously we could go 3 hours with this, because this is all great conversation. Anybody else have a thought on the video? Did it look like fun okay, go ahead, Kevin. I see it.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say, you never think about that second guy, right? You're always, you think, the brave guy who was first, the shirtless guy, he started dancing. Then the rest of the group is sort of ridiculing him a bit, right? And it takes guts to be that second person, say, you know what, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to help him out. So I just think that's a great point.
Yeah. So think about this. If you have an organization where you have a couple dozen people, 6 people, and we say, how do I change those 6 people? That's the wrong approach. How do I get 1 person to believe that what I'm trying to do is the right thing to do? And so now it's 2 against 5 instead of 1 against 6. And all of a sudden that second person may have influence over someone, saying, well, if Tony is following this, and I appreciate Tony and I respect her because she's in the business a long time, she must see something I don't see. So maybe I'll consider joining, right? And then all of a sudden it just, you have your momentum. So and I'm telling you, we did it at the bank. I've done it at other organizations. This stuff works, but you have to be patient. And the process takes, could take a couple of months to get to see where it actually comes together. I'm going to keep on going. I don't want to run out of time. But let's talk about happiness a minute. You know, the UN thinks that happiness is important in the world economy. And these are what they call the World Happiness Reports. And these are the covers since 2017. And this cover is 2021. What they do is they analyze the happiness around the globe. GDP is tied to happiness. They know that because they say a happy culture spends money. Happy culture has hope in the future. If I don't have hope in the future, I hold on to my money. And it affects how people spend. So there's more about this because they tie in health issues. The happiest countries on earth are healthier. There's less of the things that we experience in our country, like divorce and health issues and all that. So there's a lot tied to happiness. And there's a lot tied to unhappiness and stress. And if you look at stress, stress accounts to at least 82% of the diseases that we experience as human beings. And why is that? Because stress creates cortisol. And you might want to write that word down, cortisol. You want to do everything in your life to avoid cortisol. The medical industry nicknamed the endorphin cortisol as the death hormone. It's the number one leader. It's the number one hormone that will totally kill your immunity system. Cancer is linked to that. Arthritis is linked to it. All these different illnesses, heart disease, is linked to the immunity system not being able to fight, and cortisol disrupts the immunity system. That's how stress makes us sick. So we could use this optimism as a business strategy, but it's more important to use it as a life strategy. How do I think more optimistic and stress less, just so I can stay healthy? So we could even take the health position on this, right? What does a doctor tell you? Relax, find a way to relax, go for a walk, play an instrument, start drawing again, do something that calms you down. A calm heart is a healthy heart. So they measure this and they want to know. And if they see this, that there's a trend of unhappiness, happiness going down, unhappiness going up, that determines future economics. Now, you know who follows this big time? Walmart. If they see a trend of unhappiness and hope in the future going down, they put less expensive items on their shelves. That's what determines how they're going to fill the store. And if they're not going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting expensive stuff on the shelves, and then there's no mood to buy. So their buying strategies are built on this optimistic index, because optimism drives spending. And we know that. We know that, right? So, when people think they're going to make money in the market because the market's going up, people buy it. They're like, oh, wow, there's hope in it. And we know that's not the right time to buy. It doesn't matter. It's emotionally driven. I want to be part of that party. I want to dance like everybody else. Nobody buys when it's all the way down because it's like, well, it's no fun doing that. But the people that buy when it's down and then sell when it goes up is really, that's where you make your money, right? We know that. All right. So I'm going to share another video. This is like happiness in the workplace. I just like this one. So I'm sharing it just because it's a cool video. This guy actually became famous at Southwest.
Good evening, folks. Welcome aboard Southwest Airlines Flight 372, service to Oklahoma City. Those of you that have flown us before know that we do things a little bit differently here on Southwest. Some of us tell jokes, some of us sing, some of us just stand there and look beautiful. I, unfortunately, can do none of those. So here's the one thing that I do know how to do. We're going to shake things up a little bit. I need a little audience participation. Otherwise, this is not going to go over well at all. So here's what I need, especially you guys in the front because you know what's coming. All right, I need a beat, all right? All I need you to do is stomp and clap, and I'm going to do the rest because I've had 5 flights today, and I just cannot do the regular boring announcement again. Otherwise, I'm going to put myself to sleep. So, you guys with me? All right. So, it's going to be a stomp, clap, stomp, clap. Come on, stomp, clap, stomp, clap. They don't beat there. There you go. Keep that going. This is Flight 372 on SWA. The flight attendants on board serving you today. Teresa in the middle, David in the back. My name is David, and I'm here to tell you that shortly after takeoff, first things first, there's soft drinks and coffee to quench your thirst. But if you want another kind of drink, then just holler. Alcoholic beverages will be $4. If a Monster Energy drink is your plan, that'll be $3, and you get the whole can. We won't take your cash, you gotta pay with plastic. If you have a coupon, then that's fantastic. We know you're ready to get to new places. Open up the bins, put away your suitcases. Carry on items, go under the seat in front of you, so none of you have things by your feet. If you have a seat on the road with the exit, we're gonna talk to you, so you might as well expect it. You gotta help evacuate in case we need you. If you don't want them, we're gonna reseat you. Before we leave, our advice is put away your electronic devices. Fasten your seatbelt, then put your trays up. Press the button to make the seat back raise up. Sit back, relax, have a good time. It's almost time to go, so I'm done with the rhyme. Thank you for the fact that I wasn't ignored. This is Southwest Airlines. Welcome aboard.
All right.
Thank you very much for my beat. I appreciate that. You will not get that on United Airlines, I guarantee.
You're not going to get that on United, right? Now let's get one comment on that. So what is that showing us? Well, what's the example here? What is that showing us? Who wants to share?
Joy
Glenn.
in your job.
What's that? I'm sorry?
Joy in your job.
Yeah, I mean, he decided to have fun. Company didn't tell him to do that. He made that decision. Go ahead, Jessica.
This company's culture, though, supports that. He works for Southwest. I sent you a link. I have a friend who's he did a Looney Tunes. He's also a Southwest steward, and it went viral. You know, at another airline, he might be fired for doing that.
That's right.
If the culture doesn't support it, he can't do it. So that's what it identifies. Yes, it's joyful, but it must be a priority in Southwest Airlines to have that environment. Otherwise, those employees would not be empowered to do that.
Yeah. So you make a point that if management doesn't agree with joyfulness in the workplace, there will be no joyfulness in the workplace unless that person knows how to create their own joy. But it's certainly not empowered by the company. Yeah, you know, but there's strategies that you could do that could at least you could attempt to create this. Right there. So there's things that go ahead, Robin.
No, I was going to say that he's part of the 2% of people that come to work with positive energy, and they want to share that with others.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. If I could get people to make their own decision to come to work and get the most out of their day, that's good enough for me. If I can't change the company, let me see if I could change some people. Right. So sometimes you can't get the company to agree, but you could help people not find the job they love, but find the love in their job. And so you want to think about that. There's an exercise at the end I'll give you that helps people say, okay, it's not a perfect job, but what do you love about it? And we know why you don't love it, but why do you love it? Go ahead, Joe. We'll take one more comment.
Dennis, you know what I saw too is people started helping each other more, put their bags up top. So it just spread. It was like contagious.
That's
so
right.
Imagine that if, you know, getting back to what you were saying before, we come to work as leaders in a much more positive way. We could spread that a little bit further, and maybe it'll take, 300 days to get there, but maybe we just take it one day at a time.
Yeah. It's incredible how influential we are. When I first started with investors, I was down in Metro Park, and we were on a 10th floor. And so my first day on the job, I was also responsible for the training at the bank. So we had training rooms and stuff like that. And so I'm there about 2 weeks, and I'm like, I'm going to try something out. Let me see if I could get people if I could change the way they communicate and what they do on a job. So instead of calling people by name, like John Callie, I would say, hey, JK, how you doing? I would call you by initials. Now, nobody in the department did that. They called everybody by their name, but I would say, hey, JK, how's it going? RL, what's going on? How was your weekend? Now, it took about a week. I walked in, they go, yo, DB, what's going on? They started doing it. I didn't ask them to do it, but they adopted it. And it wasn't long before everyone was called by their initials. So I went one step further. I went to Walmart and I bought a cordless vacuum, one of those stand-up vacuums. And so I bring it to work, and I have the vacuum in my office, and my department head comes in and she goes, what is that? I said, it's a vacuum. It's a Shark vacuum. I got it from Walmart. It's cordless. She goes, well, why'd you do that? I said, because I'm going to vacuum. She goes, why would you vacuum? We have people cleaning the building every night. I said, I know, but you know, the classroom that I use for my training, I noticed that they miss a couple of spots and I know they work hard. So I'm going to pick up the slack. I'm going to vacuum. And so I went into my training room and I vacuumed, and I could see with my glasses, the reflection, people are walking by the training room, they're goofing on me. They're going, this guy's out of his mind. Like, this guy's going to run out the department. He's vacuuming. Well, I vacuumed for about 2 weeks every day. I was in there vacuuming, and I would look and say, man, that looks good. And about 2 weeks later, my main trainer comes out to me. He says, how long are you going to be with your vacuum? I said, why? He said, you know, I'm noticing that they're not getting really good under the desk. I think I'll vacuum. I said, sure, you can vacuum. And he started vacuuming. Do you know, once he vacuumed, all the trainers started vacuuming their own space. They didn't do it. I needed him to do that. I didn't know which one was going to resonate, but he did it. And everybody said, well, if Derek is doing it, then we should probably all do it. And then after about a month, I stopped doing it. I'm figuring, heck, we got people cleaning. Why do I need to vacuum? I stopped vacuuming. A week later, that vacuum sat in my office. Nobody touched it after that. I'm telling you, it's magical how influential we are. And we have to recognize that so that we can direct our people. But they're going to follow wherever you're going. You know, and here's some things. Here's a couple of things that get in the way. Criticism, comparing, complaining, condemning, and compromising. They will follow you. I walk into a department of complainers, and here's one thing I know. The person that runs that department is a complainer. That's it. Because where are they getting it from? It's okay to complain. And so I'll go to a meeting, and all they do for the first 15 minutes of the meeting is complain about things that need to be fixed. And that's not the mindset you want to create if you're looking to solve problems, right? So what we have comparing and compromising our values, compromising our integrity, you know, so these are really important things because this will create mental conflict with our employees or with our partners or with our customers. So we talk about that a lot. Here's an interesting thing. In 2012, Gallup did a poll, and they said, when people complain to you, how do you feel? And 80% of people said, when people complain to me, I really don't care. Like, I got my own stuff. Like, I'm like, come on, you know, like, okay, I got my own world to live in. But, you know, there's 20% left. And we got 10%. It's glad it's you and not them. They're so glad that you're married to that person and they're not, right? They're thinking about, oh, that's your boss, right? And they're so glad they're not in that position. Then you have 10%, or maybe a little bit more, that really will listen to you apathetically and try to help you fix the problem. Go ahead, Jessica.
Dennis, don't you think there's a percentage in there that are annoyed when somebody's complaining? I only see apathy and empathy. I don't see irritation.
Well, that could be part of the people that don't care. That's the Gallup just put this out. There's probably a lot more in between the lines of how they count. You know, they probably generalized and put that in a silo. But I think, yeah, it's like annoyed. I'm going to tell you, at the bank, I tell people, if you're the one that people are coming to complain to, you got to rethink why they're coming to you. Because why is it's okay for me to trash on you and you're accepting it? There must be something going on that you're inviting it in or you're allowing it to happen. You know what people don't like? When they complain and you say, what could you do about it? They're like, oh, you're no fun. You're no fun. And that's what I do all the time. What's 2 things you can do to fix it? You're no fun. I'm not coming to you anymore. Thank you. Good. Fix it. You know what I mean? What are we going to do here? You know? All right. So I want to share this thought with you because this really blew my mind when I stumbled on this by reading a book, and he talked about personal brilliance, and that ties into our advantage. And I just want to share some research that I think impacts all of us, as well as our children, grandchildren, and also our colleagues, right? So Howard Gardner is a researcher at Harvard University, and he decided to spend his research career going into personal brilliance. What separates people? And we're not talking about education. We're talking about intrinsic brilliance. And the areas that he covered. Oh, so before I go to the areas, he tested people to see who was brilliant and who wasn't. Now, before I tell you what he measured, I'm going to give you the results. So he started measuring all different age groups, and he found that, and he had about 28 criteria that he had people assess with, and they asked questions that would determine where they fit. It's a very complicated and complex personality type of style thing. And anyway, when he tested 30 and older, He found that less than 1% tested brilliant. That's very few people. It was actually 1 out of every 400. So it was 0.25%. And so most people didn't test brilliant. But then he found out that when he tested younger adults, 20 to 30, he got a 2%. That's a big increase from 1 out of 400 to 2 out of 100. That's a big difference there, even though it might not seem that way. But then this is where it really started to get interesting. Young adults, 10 to 20, 20% still possess the qualities of brilliance. But then when they got to young kids, 4 to 8%, 98% that demonstrated the qualities of brilliance. Now, I don't know everybody on the call personally, but I'm gonna guess, and I'm probably right. I would think all of us at one point was 4 to 8 years old. I mean, I'm not a gambling guy, but I think I would win that bet. So here's the reason why I say that. If that's true, then it's very likely that everyone on this call at some point in your life, especially when you were younger, would be qualified as brilliant. So, and a 4-year-old didn't take a 10-week class. They didn't go to Dale Carnegie. They were born with intrinsic brilliance. So why do I bring that up? Why did this attract me? This blew my mind because I'm like, we don't have to give anyone anything. We already have what we need. We're a long life, and look at the numbers. Along the way, we gave up. We stopped being creative. We stopped asking questions. We stopped reaching for stuff. And we got busy with other stuff, raising families, all this stuff stopped us, right? So let me share the things that he talked about. Adaptive to new thinking. I mean, really, what thought do you have right now about life that you didn't have 3 years ago? What's a new thing in your life that you're thinking about that brings you joy that's new? We sometimes just repeat our thoughts over and over again. And being flexible to try new concepts. Well, we're in a new economy. We have a virtual world. And if you don't try new concepts and adapt to all the changes, you may be left behind in your business. And your competition will eat. Listen, in banking, if we're not on top of this, competition eat you right up. But you won't know it because it's done a little bit at a time, a little bit. They don't take all your customers at once. They take them away one at a time. And then we have hopeful outlook. You don't see a 6-year-old walking around going, what am I going to do about my 401k? I'm going to be paying taxes pretty soon. They don't think about that stuff. They just play. They just live life in the moment. And so, but we go on all emotional management. How do you manage discouragement? How do you manage fear? How do you manage just being PO'd about something you don't want to do? How do you manage all that? All that stuff slows us down. Persistence, sticking with it. So this is a very deep concept here because it's covering all the things in our lives that matter, things that maybe sometimes we don't think about, like self-worth, confidence in your abilities to learn new things. Here's something interesting. We did a study and we have a website I'll gear you to. Here's what we found out, that the more conscientious a person is, the less open they are to new ideas. Think about that. The more conscientious you are, the less you're open to new concepts because of your conscientiousness. And so that's why it's important to assess who you are. Find out who you are so you know to make adjustments. And then, but here's the great thing. If I could get someone that's highly conscientious to adopt a new idea, they become great at the new idea. You know why? Because they're conscientious. You see, so if we understand that, then when we're dealing with people in our organization or customers that are very conscientious, you got to slow down on adopting new ideas because they're not so quick to buy a new idea because they like their I's dotted, their T's crossed. I'm not a fad type person. You got to convince me. It's a slower sale or it's a slower adoption to a new idea because they're conscientious. But once that customer decides, very hard to change their mind now. Once they say it's a go, it's a go. And they become a great customer. So all of these things help in sales, but they also help when we're managing people or even in our personal life. So again, think about this. What are we trying to do with developing our advantage is to uncover our brilliance. We have it inside. Think about what you wanted to be when you were younger. Who wanted to be a ballerina? Who wanted to be a fireman? And we gave up on that dream. Maybe you want to be an accountant and you're living your dream. Good for you. That's wonderful. Many people don't have that experience. right? So, yeah. So think about this and say, okay, so I have what it takes. That means your children has what it takes. That means your grandchildren, especially if your grandchildren are 48 years old, understand they're brilliant, you're not. All right, so we gotta let them just grow out. You know, you just let people. I let my grandchildren be creative, and I tell my daughter, Monica, she's brilliant. Let her exercise her brilliance. Don't stop it. Even if she draws on a wall, you paint the wall later. My wife goes nuts. You're telling the grandkids to paint the wall. Who cares? So what? So you buy a gallon of paint, you paint it up, right? So let me. So brilliance is talent on fire. So think about this. You're all talented in your business, but think about if you could elevate your inquisitiveness, if you could elevate your ability to adopt new creative ideas that maybe in the past you avoided because it would be too uncomfortable, or if you could elevate your self-confidence. Just think about how that would affect your business with the skill set you already have, and adding that's your competitive advantage, is really becoming more of who you can be and put that behind your business. That's the difference. There's no new product that you need. It's a new you. It's a new Dennis. If I could tune me up, I've tuned my business up because my business is me. And so that's just think about that, how important that is. I'm going to share an idea, another video.
Finally tonight, we're going to show you something you won't believe, and we're not sure we believe it. But our Nick Watt saw it, photographed it, and we're going to show it to you. Now, for purposes of comparison, take a look at this. This is a ball of thread and a sewing needle. And the eye of that needle is so small that most of us have a dickens of a time trying to get a thread through it. But now imagine an artist who can create an entire work of art inside the eye of that needle. Here's Nick.
Perched on that pinhead is a $300,000 sculpture. Under the microscope, an elephant carved from a fragment of a grain of sand.
I had to really scrape and just take my hand away and scrape.
The tail is a dust fiber plucked from the air. Wigan's sculptures are all smaller than the head of a pin or the eye of a needle.
Do you enjoy this?
I enjoy it when I finish it. Not working on it now. It's misery. It's painstaking.
He uses tiny homemade tools and paints with a hair plucked from a housefly's back.
That is a bit where the psychiatrist probably needs to see you afterwards.
He gets satisfaction from other people's amazement.
See the static? There it is. There it is. There's a static moving it. I'm not doing that. There's a static again.
Disaster can strike at any time. It struck Alice in Wonderland.
I was carrying her towards a needle, and then I looked again through the microscope, and she'd gone, disappeared. I think I inhaled her.
And if it all goes wrong, calmly, Wigan starts again.
You know, I think I'm the most patient man on earth.
This obsession began when Wigan was a lonely 5-year-old.
I have learning difficulties. You know, I can't read or write, but I had to find a way of expressing myself.
He started making houses for ants. Recently, he made this doll's house. That doll is the size of a human blood cell.
The teachers at school made me feel small, so they made me feel like nothing. I'm trying to prove to the world that nothing doesn't exist.
That less can be more.
People haven't seen the best of me yet. I'm going to take it smaller.
Even smaller than Charlie Chaplin balanced on an eyelash. Nick Watt, ABC News, Birmingham, England.
Told you wouldn't believe it. Willard just sold his life's work to a collector for $20 million. That's world news for this Wednesday. I'm sure.
I mean, that is an incredible story, no? Isn't that incredible? And he's still doing work. If you Google him, don't do it now, do it after the meeting. But if you Google him and you put in art in the eye of a needle, all his new YouTubes come up. He's still doing stuff even smaller. It's incredible what he. So what did we learn? What did he discover? Who wants to share? What did he discover about himself? Carolyn, go ahead.
He had talent, and he needed to believe in himself, even though others did not believe in him. And I think that is the brilliance of all, that he was able to block out the negativity when others said that because he couldn't read and write, that he wouldn't be anything. And I think that's a message that sometimes many of children have heard that message. And I think it takes a lot and a lot of positive, your positivity within yourself to believe in yourself and champion yourself to go on to do great things. And I saw that, obviously that was in him. And that to me is just amazing and so super powerful.
It sure is. And he's continuing to do it. He's encouraged other people to find their brilliance, but he found this brilliance at a young age, but no one talked him out of it. Right. So he continued the journey. And so, I always talk about rediscover yourself. There's stuff inside that we have, but, for whatever reason, we didn't go deep. And it's always great to go deep and say, what is it about me that could make my life just more joyful and happier and more successful? No one could do that for us. We have to take that journey and be truthful and know that reality is reality. And Dennis has many things wrong with him. But in spite of that, I can still be happier and more joyful and more successful. And it is what it is, but I can make some changes. So it's a good journey. I'm going to give you a tool at the end that will certainly help you with this. I can't show all my videos because I don't want to run out of time, but awaken your brilliance. Here's some things. You could just write the green words down if you're taking notes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send this PowerPoint out to you, Len. I'll send you the handout. And then this way everyone has it, because it's tough to follow because I'm going fast. But if you're taking notes, how do we do this? Appreciation. Appreciate what you have. And if you're writing notes down, write down gratitude journal. Gratitude journal. It's an unbelievable tool to have. A gratitude journal is a $2 notebook, and you keep it in your bedroom. And every night before you go to sleep, you write down 2 things you're grateful for. Oh man, that sounds corny. That's corny. That's a mark. It's not true. It does work. And it's always good to end your day in a state of gratitude. And here's what people tell me that do that. They have a better night's sleep after about a week or two, because they're going to bed with a different level of energy. They're going to bed with an energy of gratification and appreciation. Write down 2 things. One thing tonight you might write down is maybe you had this experience today and you say, I'm grateful that I had this, but I'm also grateful that I came home to food or to a happy family or to a house that I like. I mean, you don't need anything incredible, but just remind yourself every day of the little things we can appreciate. Gratitude journey is very, very, very powerful.
Dennis, can I add one thing to that? Because
Sure.
I do this, but I take it a step further. I write down what I'm grateful for, and then I write down on the next page or like the facing page 2 things or 3 things that I'm looking forward to the next day. And I look at them when I wake up in the morning. So you end your day with positivity and you start your day with positivity. And it
Yeah.
really is, it's impactful.
It sure is. It sure is. And I like that other part because you're starting your day with a purpose. Here's what I'm going to look for today. I'm going to look for 3 things that's going to make my day great. And they say you'll find what you're looking for, right? You will find what you're looking for. Not every day, but most days. Then we have maintain a hopeful outlook, generosity towards others, right? Just be generous with your time. And when you're with someone, be there. Get off the phone and stop emailing and texting when someone's talking to you. That happens in my organization all the time. It just drives me nuts. Like, why can't you give me 2 minutes of your time? Why do you have to look at your emails while you're talking? It's just not a good place to be because you're not in the moment. And I think it affects us personally when we're not in the moment with other people. So here's a thought I heard on a podcast about a month ago. The person said, listen to people as if they have something important to tell you. And it's funny because someone may say something, they have no idea what they're saying, but it's important to you that you heard it. Right. So it's a good thing to practice. But I know we have a lot of stuff going on. Kindness is a big deal. They say in business and in life, if you're kind, man, you got a good head start. Right. And we know that kind people we want to be around. And then we have always look for ways to improve your mindset and always look for ways to work towards something bigger and better and meaningful. And I'll send you all this so you don't have to worry about catching up on writing stuff down. But I have a couple of minutes left and I just want to make sure I cover the most important. So we have a packet that we sent that you'll get after this meeting that's going to have some exercises in there. The first one is going to be the power list of 20. And I've been teaching this for about 35 years. It is amazing how powerful this is. This is looking at your life and writing down on a piece of paper 20 reasons why you love your life. That's it. 20 reasons. And you may have 30, write them down. Why your life is so incredible. And you may say, well, my life's not incredible. Well, maybe if you look at the whole picture, it's not incredible. But in that picture, there are some credible things. And you need to think about it. And I'm going to tell you, just like that video earlier, when you start to think about things that you appreciate and love in your life, your energy changes as you're thinking about it. It's an immediate benefit. Another one would be 20 things I love about the person that's closest to me. Now, I remember I did this for my wife about 10 years ago. I wrote down 20 things I love about her. And you know, I figured I should do it. I'm telling people to do it. So I decided I should try this, right? So I write it down and I sit with my wife and I'm like, listen, I want to talk to you about something. She goes, what's the matter? I said, there's nothing the matter. I just want to talk. She goes, I know, but usually don't just sit down and talk, right? So I said, well, I want to share something with you, right? And I was like, just let me do this. So she's sitting there and I was like, so I want to tell you 20 things I love about you. And she's looking at me like, are you serious? I'm like, no, I'm going to do this, right? So I go through the first 3. And what do you think, Patricia? What do you think she was doing by the 3rd or 4th one?
She was crying.
Yeah, she was like, man, she was all like teary-eyed. What do you think I was doing by the 5th one?
Me again?
Yeah. What do you think I was doing?
I think you were crying too.
Of course. We were sharing an emotional experience of appreciation that in 35 years of marriage, we never did. But that was the moment where we were going to appreciate each other. So I went through all the 20. I was getting around 12 or 13, and she looks at me and she hates when I tell this story, right? But she goes, are you dying? I'm like, no, I'm not dying. She goes, so why are you telling me all this? I'm like, because I want you to know. She goes, so am I supposed to do this for you? I'm like, if you want to. She goes, okay. But she actually, she couldn't figure out why I was doing this. You know why? Because I never did it before. But now I did it for all my children. I did it for my grandchildren. This is a beautiful exercise to express yourself with other people. And it strengthens an already strong relationship. It may help strengthen a relationship that needs to be strengthened. Maybe you could rekindle a relationship by doing that. Certainly, how would your mom and dad feel if they're still alive? How would your mom and dad feel if you sat down and said, Mom, I want to tell you how much of a beautiful woman you are and how much I appreciate you. I mean, if my kids did that to me, I would just be blown away, right? So we had someone in one of our classes actually write it for her husband, and he was dead for 5 years. She went to the cemetery and she read it to him. And then she dug a hole and she put in a plastic bag the list and she covered. That was it. She goes, I never told him when he was alive, but I hope he knows now. Very powerful. Also, you can do it for your family and your job and career. We have people that do this on the job. I tell people, write down 20 things you love about Investors Bank. And they write it down at the end of the list. I'm like, so how do you feel about your job right now? I feel good. Well, you feel good because you're focusing on good. And so then we have, here's some things you're going to get. So we have the morning juice. I don't know if some of you get the morning juice, some of you don't, but Len, if people want the morning juice, or if you want the morning juice, you can reach out to me at Investors Bank. It's dbudnick@investorsbank.com. And I'll send you every morning. We do a motivational something. It's an email, it's a story, it's a quote, but every day we want people to start their day with some kind of positive thought. So we have that. We're going to give away some books. We really talk about vision boards. I don't have time to do that, but a vision board, you should research and say, businesses do vision boards. Disney, car companies, fabric companies, they vision their product out. They vision their business out in the future and they put it in pictures. It's very powerful. And then we have the Power List of 20. Book clubs is a big deal. So we talk about how do you start to change the way people think in a company?